Welcome to From Beyond with your host, Glenn Boddice. Join me as we explore spirituality, self-help, and channeling spirit. Hello and welcome to From Beyond with your host Glenn Boddice, spiritual medium. Thank you once again for tuning in for a very interesting deep dive episode this week. As in this week's episode, we're going to be discussing the topic of a taste of the supernatural. Also in this week's episode, we have the world of spirit joining us as I allow myself to be a vessel for spirit to come forward and bring forward their knowledge and wisdom. And then later on in the show, we have this week's energy forecast reading, which will hopefully help you navigate your way through the twists and turns of this week ahead. So without further ado, let's deep dive into this week's show topic. As I say, we're talking about a taste of the supernatural. Now, what I want to put to you is at some point in your life, everybody has had some kind of supernatural experience. Whether they realize it or not, they will have had that experience. It's usually we're preoccupied to notice these things because 9 times out of 10, they're very subtle in their nature and the way that they happen and unfold. And so I dare say that at some point you have gone through it. With me saying this as well, like I say, it's very subtle. And so we're too preoccupied in our mind or whatever we're doing, we may be focusing on the future or too preoccupied to notice these subtle changes, not only in ourselves, but also our senses, our thoughts, our emotions, also our environment there, and the property and also the objects that we own as well do have that potential to display some rather supernatural activities there. And it's usually when our minds are relaxed, when we feel comfortable, when our minds are blank, where we're just in the present moment. And then usually, in my experience, that's when we're more aware of these supernatural occurrences. We do not have that level of resistance anymore in our thought processes. We're just being, we're just in the moment, and it's in that energy that we can then observe and experience levels of supernatural activity. Now, I would say that a lot of these things that defy the rules of our existence. So in other words, throughout the course of our life, we've been conditioned, we've been programmed on some way, shape or form to actually believe a certain narrative, like the sun shines bright and it comes up in the morning and the moon comes up at night, that sort of thing. And also that we have to go to bed at a certain time, we have to get up at a certain time, and gravity and all these rules and the barriers of, light and the barriers of sound as well, all these rules and regulations that we've been led to believe. Now, if you remove all of those rules and regulations and just have a present and open mind, then this is where you're going to observe some rather peculiar things occurring, but in actual fact, they're very natural. It's just the fact that we've been conditioned to think that it's something unnormal, if you know what I'm saying there as well. So removing those subconscious belief systems and being present will allow us to observe the world of the supernatural in our current reality. So when we observe it, what sort of things can we expect to notice? Well, I'll give you a few suggestions. One of them being objects being moved. And you may see this in real time. So you may be sitting down or something in your home, and all of a sudden you see a cushion fly off of the settee there with no intervention or no sort of intention from anybody else or anything else in the room. It just kind of jumps off on its own accord. That is very interesting when you see that, or even objects moving, like chairs moving on their own. Usually it's very subtly. It's, in my experience, it's usually quite subtly, nothing major and quick. But I have seen on videos as well, on captures, where chairs have been dragged across the room really quickly by an unseen hand or an unseen energy force. So the potentiality for that occurring is out there. You know, it is possible, and I'm open to seeing that and experiencing that, definitely. Also, what I have noticed, and this has happened to me many times over the years, and I'm sure it has done to you too as listeners, where all of a sudden you have a certain article or object in your home, and it's always been in that location. Nobody ever touches it. It stays in that location, and nobody intervenes. Nobody comes in the household and thinks, oh, what's that? Let's put that over here. So it's untouched. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, out of nowhere, that object goes missing, and nobody's used it. Nobody's been in the vicinity of that area for it to go missing. And then I would say a few weeks later, or even a year later, all of a sudden you find that article or object in a completely ridiculous place, somewhere that you would never have placed it yourself. And it's usually right under your nose, isn't it? And a place that you go by every single day, and you know it's not there, it doesn't belong there, it's never there. And then all of a sudden, one day it shows up out of the blue, and that's where it's located. And you quiz everybody, you question your own sanity, and you come to the conclusion, well, actually, that wasn't there. That has never lived there. It's never been there. And then it suddenly appeared out of the blue. I would say that this is potentially spirit. They have that opportunity and that ability to actually remove an item out of our dimension and materialize it back into our dimension in a different location. Now, I know this sounds a little bit, way out there, but if you think about it, we're all energy. We're not solid. We're all moving particles and energy. And so what spirit will be doing is manipulating that energy and the ingredients of how that energy shows up in our dimension, manipulating it in such a way so it becomes invisible to us in our dimension with our senses. But potentially it is still there, it's just vibrating at a different level. We just can't experience it or see it or find it. But in actual fact, it's still there. And all spirit will be doing is materializing that. In other words, lowering the frequency of that object so it can be made visible again in our dimension. The reason why I bring this up, like I say, it's happened to me countless amount of times over the years. And it always amazes me when the objects do turn up again and they're in the place that you go by every single day, and you would have seen it. You would have seen it, and all of a sudden it pops up there, and you're like, whoa. And you get that little bit of a chill feeling down your spine, and you just know and you feel that there's something otherworldly that's occurred with this. And like I say, objects being also what can potentially happen is objects being placed where you can see them. Now, I've had also experience of this, and I'm sure many of you have as well, where maybe a photograph or something connected to a deceased loved one in spirit, that item maybe have been tucked away for many years, and all of a sudden that article appears from nowhere, again, right in front of you, almost out of nowhere. And I would say potentially this is that loved one in spirit wanting to be remembered to you, wanting to let you know that they're all right, and also that they're still around with you. Now, I've had that experience quite a few times there, and it is a little bit spooky, I would say, is probably the best choice of words I can use. But also there's that sense of magnificence and sort of gratitude that I have for that experience. Because when you understand energy and spirit and how much intention and work and energy has gone behind the scenes to make that actually happen so that you can have that experience in this dimension is quite mind-blowing when you think about it. So I don't see it as anything to be frightened of or scared of. I just see it as an absolute blessing, and I feel very grateful to have witnessed that occurring there as well. Also, how many of you have been in bed, maybe going to bed of an evening, you're just winding down there, or maybe getting up, just waking up in that in-between state, and all of a sudden you've heard your name being shouted, and your name's being shouted or even whispered right at the side of you. And, you've been there on your own, there's nobody there with you, and you can hear it as clear as day. Somebody calling your name, and you can hear it very clearly there. And it gets you into that mode of second guessing yourself. Did I make that up? Did I hear that? And then when you rationalize the situation and understand that, well, there's only me in the house, I was awake, I wasn't fully asleep, yet I heard it with my physical ears. And in some cases, you could almost feel the breath on your earlobe as you're hearing your name being called. Now, I've heard many people having this experience, and I would say this is spiritual energy connecting with you. And because you're in that in-between state, you're not fully asleep, you're not fully awake, you're just that in-between state. There's no resistance there from your sensitivity and your, I would say, abilities to connect in to different dimensions. And so with there being no resistance there, you're going to experience it more clearly, more loudly. And so that's the way I would perceive that situation. But I wouldn't necessarily think straight away, oh, that's a spirit. I would always go down the avenue of trying to debunk it first. And then I would tune in, obviously being a medium with my gifts and abilities, and get into the feeling energy of that. I would inquire with my guides what's happened there. And 9 times out of 10, my guides will come in and they'll tell me what's actually happened and why it's happened. So I've always got that backup system with my abilities there. But for people that haven't, I would still say, just trust your instincts. You will get a feeling, and once you've debunked it and it doesn't stack up, and then just go into your feeling tone, and you'll get a feeling if it's right or if it's wrong, if it is phenomena or if it isn't. You'll just know. That's what I would say. Also, how many of you have experienced this, where you've walked into a room in your house or maybe a different property or a location, and although you're indoors, it's a warm building, there's windows closed, there's doors closed, you can see a thick mist and a thick fog filling that room, almost as if it's a fog that you would normally see outdoors in winter. How many of you have had that experience? I can tell you that this happens quite a lot in my home. And in actual fact, in the part of the home where the studio is located, obviously, this part of the home contains a lot of energy. Obviously, with the work and the recordings that I do in the studio, it's going to generate curiosity and energy from spirit, isn't it? And so in that area, I've noticed before where I've walked in, there's no windows open, there's no heat source, no smoke or anything like that. And all of a sudden, you can't see clearly from one end of the studio to the other because of this mist. Now, some of you may be saying, yeah, but somebody smoked a cigarette or vaped. Potentially you could say that, but nobody smokes or vapes in my house. And I wouldn't encourage or let anybody that smoked or vaped in my house anyway. It's a smoke-free zone. And then you could say, well, actually, has somebody been cooking and they've burnt something and all that smoke and steam would fill that room up? And I would say, well, yet again, you'd know about it, you'd smell it first of all, and then the fire alarms would know about it and they would all be going off. And in all situations when I've seen this fog and mist in the studio area, there's been none of that happening. There's been no alarms going off, no smell there, odorless. It's just the fact that you can't see from one end of the room, the studio, right to the other clearly. And it's like, literally like you would see it outdoors, in winter. Pea soup, as we call it round these parts. Thick pea soup fog. And then the more I look at it and I relax into it and I accept it, then I start to notice that this mist, this fog starts to break up and the room starts to become clear again. And I can see the objects more clearer, more sharper. And I have that quite a lot that happens in this home. And I would say, looking into that, I would definitely say that it is spirit, a collective of spirit coming in, visiting. And I've actually had clients and friends come in the studio and say, I can have the heating on full whack. And they say, oh, I wish spirit would make it warmer in here. And in fact, they're sat there with their coats on, the heating's on, it's not cold. And yet they can feel that cold energy from spirit coming through. So I find that remarkable that occurs. Also, just moving on, talking about supernatural things occurring, electrical issues. How many of you listening have had issues where your lights are flickering on and off or coming on at random there? And you've looked at all of the possibilities, obviously the fuse box, the electric source, the light bulbs if they're on the way out, and you've gone all down these avenues to try and debunk why it's happening. Yet all of those things are okay. Excuse me. All of those things are present and correct, and they're all right. And so I would say, to uncover this, that spirit have the ability to make lights flicker on and off and make you aware of their presence. And they do this not to intimidate you or scare you like some of the films dictate and try and enforce that level of fear into you with this. They're wanting your attention. And so this is one way of doing it. And obviously energy frequency, they work on those vibrations. And so they can connect in with electrical items and electrical sources and manipulate that energy, because it is an energy source, isn't it? They can manipulate it. Now, they can't hold it for long periods of time, because obviously that would drain their energy from doing that. But they can interject and make an impact, so we are aware of their presence in our vicinity there. And I've had that many times. In fact, I used to have one of those. Do you remember the touch lamps that you can get where you touch the side and you can change how strong the light is, or you can even turn it off by just touching the lamp on the side there? Well, I used to have one of those, and all the time the lamp was the other side of the room. Nobody was near it. And all the time the light would flicker when I'm talking about something either spiritual or somebody in spirit. The light would come on all of its own accord, or it would flicker and change. It would go dimmer and then brighter, dimmer and then brighter when I'm speaking about them. And the first thing I thought, oh no, is the bulb going? So I'd check the bulb, I'd change the bulb, and it would still happen. So what I did then, again, to try and debunk it, I looked at the fuse and I changed the fuse in the plug, put it in, and it was still doing it when I was having these conversations. So to me, like I said earlier, I went in with my emotions, with my feelings, and it felt like it was a spiritual energy that was causing that issue. I then had that confirmed by my guides there as well. So I've had that happen many times, and I dare say many of you listening have had something similar occur as well. Also, I want to talk about fire alarms as well, because I've had issues with them. I did many years ago. And with most modern day fire alarms now, they're hardwired into the electrics, aren't they? And so anyway, they do have a backup battery, most of them as well, in case the electrics go. And you do have to obviously take regular checks upon them. Well, I had an instance a few years ago where the alarm kept going off all the time. And so again, I checked the fuse box, the main fuse box in the home, nothing wrong there. I'd turn the alarm off, first of all, with a broom handle, and then it kept on happening. So I checked the battery, the backup battery inside of the units there, and they were fine. They weren't drained or anything. They were running as normal, no problems there. And in particular, I pinpointed the source or the location for the fire alarm that was doing it. And it happened to be the one at the top of the stairs. And so anyway, I was aware of that. And I do know that there is a portal there, an energy portal at the top of my stairs. So anyway, this kept happening. And I thought, well, I know it's nothing in this dimension that's causing it. There's no electrical surges or anything like that. No circuitry problems with the fire alarm. And anyway, I recall having an encounter where I was aware of a spirit man just coming out of the blue and making his presence known to me. And he was telling me why he'd come in. He needed some assistance. He was attracted by this portal, by the light, thinking that this was his way home. And anyway, I asked my guides, I put two and two together. I asked my guides, has this gentleman been causing these issues with the fire alarm? And my guide said, yes, he has. He's been trying to get your attention for a few days now. And I asked the gentleman in spirit, have you been doing this? And he said, yes. And just as he said that, he said, I'll prove it to you. And he did it. Straight after he said that, he made them go off. And so anyway, I turned it off again. I said, right, how can I help you? And then obviously, not obviously, but I assisted him to make his journey back home, to be with his loved ones there. And so that's what occurred. So I've had that many times. Also, how many of you have had issues with your TV and electrical devices, your computers, where your TV's turning itself on and off again and maybe changing channels or sticking on a certain channel where they're talking about a particular subject or something that you can associate with either a loved one or a friend or family member in spirit? How many of you had that experience? It's really peculiar, isn't it? And again, you debunk it first of all. You check the batteries, you check the TV, there's nothing wrong there. And again, it leads you back down to that avenue that, well, actually somebody's trying to get my attention and communicate. I've also had, and I bet some of you have had this with technology issues, where if you're using computers, obviously I use a studio and the main source here, the main hub, is a computer system. And so I've had it where I've been working on projects and albums with clients, and we're working away, and all of a sudden, all of the, it's not allowing us to mix the album. It keeps reverting back to its previous mix. It's automating all by itself. And some of you may say, well, have you got a virus in your computer? And I would say, well, no, because I've got a virus checker. And also I don't go on the internet with this particular computer. It's solely used for production purposes. And what we've found is that this happens when spirit don't want us to pursue that project further, or maybe we're having a conversation at the same time we're producing that piece of music that needs our full attention. And so they won't allow us to go any further with that project until we've addressed the conversation that we're having, or maybe it's been in a situation where we're not meant to produce that song on that day because the vibrations, the energy hasn't been right, the intention hasn't been right by everybody in the room whilst we're producing it. So I've had that many times before as well. And it's fascinating when it does happen. Again, I always go to debunk it first of all. And when it turns out that all of that is nothing that I can uncover, I then go down the avenue of assessing it from a spiritual level. How many have also had temperature changes in your home or in your environment? Now, this is something I've experienced many, many times, but it takes me back to my earlier evolution when I first started to become aware of energy and spirit. Around, I would say, I wasn't connecting with spirit, but I was aware of energy. I'd be about 15. And that year, my granddad passed away. And anyway, the reason why I say that is because he used to come and see us every week at my mum and dad's. And he had a particular chair that he would always sit on every time he came round. Well, anyway, not long after he passed, one of my friends came round. There was just me and one of my friends in the house, and we was having a bite to eat at the dinner table. Anyway, my friend said, "Whoa, I'm red hot in here." I said, "What? It's not that hot." And all of a sudden his face went bright red. His arms went red, everything went red, and he started to take his jumper off. He said, "Are you sure you haven't got the radiators on?" I was like, no, it's normal. And so anyway, I said, "Let me have a sit down in that chair." Anyway, I sat down in the chair, and the same thing happened to me. I went really red, really hot, face went red, sweating. I had to take my jumper off. And then I started to get that spiritual chill, that energy chill, and that energy build-up that most of you that may be aware of energy will understand and connect with. And then at 15, I suddenly put two and two together and realized that actually the chair we were sat on and having this experience in was the very same chair that my granddad used to sit in every week, every time he used to come up on a Monday there. So to me, that was a lovely gesture from my granddad, just to let us know that he was watching us as well. Also, earth tone. How many of you have experienced earth tone when you've heard a really low resonant sound, and that sound has really gone through your physical body? You felt it, and it's made the vibrations, it's made the room move as well. It's also, it's made you feel sick, very disorientated, all at the same time. And also wildlife behaving badly. I mean, we've all seen it where a cat looks up some stairs and there's hissing and won't go up those stairs, but there's nothing there that we can obviously see. Dogs sometimes bark at random parts of the house when there's nobody there. And, animals pick up on this a lot more quickly and easier than we do, because they're not conditioned to the level that we've been brought up to think and to feel and to analyze. They're just in that present moment. They're connecting and they're trusting their truth and their nature. So it's very interesting, this subject, isn't it? A taste of the supernatural, should I say. And I'm sure now that we've brought it up to your attention a little bit clearer, the next time you relax into life, just take a good look round, observe, trust your emotions, trust your feelings, the thoughts in your mind, and also don't second guess what you're seeing. Yes, it's good to debunk it and analyze it first. I would always recommend that people do that, but don't be afraid to go down the supernatural lane there and explore that with a curious mind and an open heart there. And you'll be pleasantly surprised and amazed when you do come to that final conclusion that, well, actually, yes, this is supernatural interactions. And what a beautiful thing it is when you come to that conclusion. It just makes you feel like, I would say, a part of the whole of the universe, and that although you think you know everything, you don't. You don't. And this is a way of that universe feeding back to you and saying, well, here you go, look, there's a little bit of something for you to think about. Speaking about that there as well, how many of you had random thoughts that just appear in your mind out of the blue that you wouldn't normally think or have any necessary reason to think that ever in your life? Now, this is also, I would say, it can be energy, can be thought energy that goes around the universe. It could potentially be a spirit being or a loved one placing those thoughts into your mind, and even emotions, placing emotions on you. And you're just more aware of them simply because you've taken a back seat, you've stepped back, you've not focused your attention in your mind on either what you're doing or focusing on your past or your future. You're just being present in that moment with a blank mind, and you all of a sudden experience these things. Potentially, I would encourage you to explore it further. Again, try and debunk it if you can, and then make your own conclusions. But nevertheless, It's a very vast universe that we live in, and I would just say be more curious about it. We're now going to move into the next segment of this week's show, which is the channeling from Spirit, which sees me becoming a vehicle for Spirit to bring their wisdoms and communications through. But before we go into that, I just thought I'd share some observations that I've noticed occurring over the past few weeks. I've been reminiscing quite a lot. I don't know if anybody else has, where I've been going back into my past, into childhood, into adolescence there, and early adulthood. And I've been just observing various points in my life that I've gone through. And I've just been observing it from my now moment consciousness and just realizing certain gifts in those experiences that perhaps I wasn't aware of during the time I was going through them. So I've been going through that, and it's been happening rather sporadically, randomly, shall I say, where I have had no intention of doing that work or observing those thoughts or feelings, but it just kind of happens. So to me, I feel as though this is happening for a reason, maybe extracting the good out of those situations, letting those elements go. Definitely, I feel as though there's a change coming in. I don't know if anybody else is feeling that, but I certainly have been experiencing that over the last few weeks. And I just thought I would share that with you just to inquire if you have as well, because like I say, I feel as though there's a specific reason why it's occurring, and that is because where I feel as though we're moving into a new level, we're moving into change in some way. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's channeling from the world of spirit. Please take notes if you feel the need to do so, as like me, I'm always intrigued to hear what they have to say. Sit back and enjoy.
The journey of the soul is one of triumphant wonder. The soul's evolution transpires many eons through time, as you would perceive time. The soul is forever changing its form and frequency, and it has the capacity to be in multiple dimensions and vehicles, all at the same specific time as you would perceive, because the soul can break down into fractals, and that fractal part of your soul will feed back information, that is emotions, thoughts, that is also communications, all of that information, and the perception of that soul fractal is then collated by the soul as a whole. So this is a wonderful, wonderful thing to actually know this information, because in essence what you can do using your conscious mind, your present moment mind, is that you can ask to have an insight into some of these soul fractals that are part of your soul. And you can obtain wisdom and intellect and information far beyond your current reality, your current perceptions. And this will be slightly overwhelming to you, the amount of energy, downloads, and information that is always available to every single one of you when you ask and when you focus in on that frequency within each and every soul fractal of your greater soul's perception. It will bring an eternal, universal wisdom to you, far beyond the human mind can comprehend. And that's why on a lot of occasions, most of you do not have this experience, because the information will be far too much all at the same time, and it will literally blow your mind, so to speak. Nevertheless, you can have an experience of these soul fractals within your present moment consciousness if you are choosing to do so. A way of obtaining this information, as we always state to you, is by asking asking out to the universal mind for this experience. And if you're wanting to pinpoint various fractals within your soul's essence, then you ask for that information or that experience to come through to you in your present moment reality. This will see you traveling in all dimensions and all directions of time. It's difficult for us to put into words the experience for you to have, because it is far beyond anything any words can describe. And your human mind will instantly try and put a beginning, a middle, an end to the experience. When we say to you, it is all is, it just is, it's all now, it's all happening now. There is no beginning, middle, and end. It's just now, it is. And we understand that is quite a lot of information to comprehend in the human brain. But with practice, you will get used to the vibration. So as we were saying, to have this experience, you must ask the universal mind, the creator, whatever your terminology is, to have this enlightening experience. The second thing you need to understand is you need to take all of the judgments, all of the human mind out of your mind, and just be in your present moment state. By slowing your breath down so you're nice and relaxed, your muscles and your physicality are relaxed. Your brain is just, it's an observer, it's an instrument of observation. And when you're comfortable and in that frequency, we say this is the start of you having these experiences that we're describing to you. But you must be relaxed, you must be open with non-attachment. Just be the observer of the experience, and you will find that you will have some rather peculiar experiences, but you will find it difficult to put into words, because it will be like nothing other you've ever experienced in this, your conscious reality. So we wanted to tell you about that, and the soul fractals of your whole soul are forever active, as we've mentioned on here many times before, that there are multiple versions of yourself. And what we mean by that is you all have free will, freedom of choice. And with every choice that you make, there is a split in your soul, fractal, and that part of your soul carries on existing on that choice, that timeline that you chose. And it's only upon focusing on where you place your intention, your focus, is your dominant experience. But nevertheless, that doesn't mean that all of those other choices are just null and void. Not at all. They are continuing to expand and have that experience to feed back that information to your full soul and the universal collective mind. It's a lot to get your head around, we understand, but there are millions upon millions, billions, in fact, infinite versions of yourself, all having an experience. There will have been many people that have said to you on previous conversations with you that they have seen you in various locations where you know yourself you have not been in those locations, and you can back up where you was at with your timeline, where you was on that time and with that date, and yet these people believe they have seen you in that alternate location. We say that this is a prime example of that soul fractal of yours, that choice of yours carrying on and having that existence. And other people may pick up on your vibration and see your essence in that experience. But in actual fact, your perception is that you are focusing on a more dominant choice, and therefore you were not consciously aware of the previous version of yourself was continuing on its timeline. So there's lots to understand, and we understand that this goes far beyond the human mind can ever fully comprehend. But we say to you just to trust the experience. Your feelings will always guide you. Your feelings will always put you on the right path. And they'll let you know that you're having this connection. So I'd like to wrap up this conversation by just saying you are greater and bigger than you ever imagined you were. So bear that in mind the next time you are faced with a decision or a choice, no matter how big or small that choice happens to be. Know that there is always a version of yourself coexisting in that reality. And so you can tap into that experience to collate information, and that will help you on your primary focused reality. So we wanted to put that out to you. We're going to pass you on to another communicator who wishes to come forward and have a few words with you. Thank you so much for listening, and hopefully we'll communicate with you soon. Goodbye for now.
Do you know what? I haven't been through for such a long time that I had to barge my way in to say hello to everybody. But thank you for listening. There's lots happening, as you know, at the moment, and it will look like chaos is occurring all around you, because it's as if people have lost their common sense. We're not judging, we're just saying that that's how it will appear to you. And we say that this is going to give you a really good service to humanity. I know it doesn't look that way, but it is, honestly, because it's winkling out all the things that you don't want to have, you don't want to experience in your world. It's winkling it all out so that you can see it now. You couldn't see it before because he was hiding. He was hiding under, you know that phrase, a wolf in sheep's clothing? It was like that. Or a sheep in wolf. I forget the way round what we mean. But it's like that. So, but it's going to come now where all your elements of society, the things that have been not very nice are coming up. And a lot of you won't feel comfortable around the energy of this. But we say it's a good thing. It's a good thing because it's winkling it all out so that you can see it now. And when you can see something, you can then make a choice of whether you're going to have that experience or whether you're not going to have that experience. Whether you're going to put your energy to it or whether you're not going to put your energy to it. Whereas before, when it was hiding behind the surface, it was very cloak and dagger. You didn't have those choices. You just carried on and you accepted things as they are. Whereas now, and this is everywhere globally, now that is no longer the case. You have options. And these options are going to empower you, not only you as an individual person, but it's going to empower your communities. And this is where the great shift and changes are going to occur on your planet. A lot of people are going to think, what's all that about? I don't want that. And so they're gonna vote with their energy by not giving energy to those things that they don't align with anymore. So that's what I've been instructed to come forward to tell you. So just keep your eyes and ears open. Don't be afraid. This is for the greatest good of humanity. As we say, it's making things more clear to you so that you can make that conscious choice and create a reality that is in an alignment with who you are and your communities are. So it's all good, really. So that's why I've come through. Anyway, I've been told it was a quick conversation, so I'm going to go now. And I wish you all lots of love. And just to let you all know that you are always surrounded by love. So even if in times you feel on your own or neglected by people or loved ones or society, please know and open your heart and feel it that we are always there to back you up and to push you forward in the best version of yourself. Bye everyone, we love you. Bye.
Well, yet again, another fantastic communication there from the world of spirit. Very encouraging to know about our soul's evolution, and that in doing so, we're continually heightening our vibration and the frequency that our souls emit. Also, all very interesting to hear about the soul fractals, and they're continually evolving and having different experiences, all in the same present moment consciousness. And all of this information is then collated by our complete soul, which is then sent over to the creator to expand and extract the consciousness and all of these experiences. So wonderful to hear that, and nice to hear that we have that permission just by asking, that we can tap into those soul fractals and extract some of that wisdom, some of that energy, maybe some of those experiences to maybe bring into our present moment consciousness in our lives, in our daily lives there. So that was fascinating to hear that. And obviously, it's always encouraging, and I think we all need this reminder that everything is happening in the now moment consciousness. And when we understand that, it kind of blows our mind a little bit, but I think that's why we all need continually reminding of that. And it's always a pleasure to hear one of our guests from the world of spirit, little Tom, who's a visitor to my establishment, and nice to hear him actually coming forward and telling us about the chaos that we're all going to witness experiencing in our present moment reality. And all of this, shall we say, untruths are coming up to the surface. And although it looks like a bad thing, in actual fact, it's a good thing in disguise, because we're able to see what is actually happening, and it gives us that perspective of contrast, so we can make that decision that we don't want this anymore, we want this instead. So we can all start to begin to design our life the way that we see fit and what we want to experience. So it was nice to hear that come through in the transmission there, and also that love and encouragement is always warranted, and feel very honored to hear that from spirit. So we're going to move on to the next segment of the show, which is this week's energy forecast reading. So sit back, relax, take some notes if you want to, and enjoy this week's forecast reading. Hello, my name is Glenn Boddice, and I'm a spiritual medium, and welcome to this week's energy forecast reading for the week commencing Monday the 13th of May 2024. Now, those of you that watched me do this before will know that I connect with my spirit guides and helpers, and also link in with the wisdom of the angel tarot cards. So what I'm about to do is just shuffle the pack and allow this week's energy forecast reading card to come forward. So here is your card for this week. I'm now going to link into the vibration of that to bring forward some additional content. Well, first of all, I'm being told that this week will see you jumping into a new timeline on your life, where you're actually going to take authority for your own vibration. In other words, you're going to say yes and you're going to say no to people, and you're going to understand that you've had this choice all along. You've had the power all along, except you've been giving your power to other people, and this has diluted your vibration. It's been making you feel tired, lethargic, anxious, worrying. It's affected your diet and the food that you're consuming. However, this week is going to change. You're stepping into your power, and actually you'll feel this resurgence of energy and vitality coming back into your life. You're going to know what you want, and you're going to trust that the universe is going to bring that in for you, but you're now going to have the understanding that you're going to take that leap of faith and move with that energy that is catapulting you in the direction of your new timeline that's coming into your life. Also, I'm being told to watch out for your sensitivity being heightened this week because you're taking your power back. There's something to do with, I feel, the atmosphere, the conditions in the atmosphere. You're going to pick up on energy. So if there's been an argument in a vicinity where you happen to be, or there's been some sort of historic activity that's happened in that area, you're either going to have flashbacks, like memories of that coming into your mind, even though you've never experienced it for yourself. You're going to have that experience. Also, I feel as though you'll be very susceptible to smelling other aromas that aren't necessarily in that environment. Again, connected to these alternate timelines in the locations you happen to be at that moment in time. I'm also being told to tell you to make sure that you're keeping yourself in check and balanced with your vibration. What I mean by this is something about you giving back to yourself a little bit more, having some headspace, not committing to projects, not committing to catch-ups and meetups, and instead pulling that vibration back on yourself and actually making sure that you're firing on all cylinders, so to speak. I do sense also that you're going to see things a lot differently this week, as you'll be able to see through people's motives and agendas. And this can be either a happy experience, or depending upon the situation, it could appear quite negative to you. But nevertheless, you'll have that ability, that extrasensory perception this week more so. Watch out for invitations coming your way this week as well. And I feel as though this is trips away, visiting locations. And again, you've got to trust your intuition with this, because some of you will feel that intense energy that you're meant to walk on a different path, a different timeline to maybe those people that are inviting you on these events or whatever it is there as well. I've got to say that there's some crying that's going to occur, some tears or emotions that need to come out of you this week, as this is mourning the old version of you that no longer exists anymore as you're moving into these new timelines. So let's turn over the card and see what the card has to say for you. The top of the card, it says 10 of Raphael. So I'd like to give you the angel number of number 10 to research, as that will offer you some additional content and information. But also the number 10 would indicate you've come to an end of a chapter. Like we were saying earlier, you're moving into a new timeline. And so don't resist these changes. Know that it is for your betterment, and you'll be given inspiration every step of the way. Feeling into the vibration of Raphael, I feel as though this is to do with your heart. This is to do with self-love. It's also to do with allowing your heart to be open to love, whereas perhaps on a previous timeline you was a little bit resistant to it. And this is because of some of those fearful experiences that you had connected in your past relating to your heart chakra there. So let's read out the inscription at the bottom, and it reads, love and blessings fill your life, harmonious relationships with family members, happily ever after. Well, that's a wonderful relief to hear that, isn't it? And what a beautiful message there. So basically, I feel as though now you've moved into this new timeline, you've taken your power back, you'll have this magnetic appeal and this quality about you, where there'll be no resistance. You'll flow into this new vibration, following and trusting the vibration of your heart. And by doing that, other people will naturally gravitate towards you, whether this is family, friends, or even partnerships, a romantic partner, a relationship, whether you're currently in one, whether you're single or you're married, whatever your circumstance is, I feel as though because your vibration has changed, move into this new timeline, that there's going to be a massive shift in love and romance where that is connected with you this week. So watch out. I feel it's going to start very subtly to begin with, but once you recognize that this is what's happening, it will blossom and flourish beyond your wildest adventures, and your imagination is what I've just been told. So looking into the artwork of the card, we've got the colour of green. That indicates growth as well. Also indicates grounding your energy, being present, observing, noticing what's happening around you. And it's talking about your heart chakra, being more stronger now than it ever has been before in the past. And this is because you've done that inner work. You've released all of those old energies that no longer serve you, because you're now moving into this new timeline. Looking into the center of the artwork, we have this masculine and feminine energy. And that's talking about balance. It's talking about balancing not only both of your masculine and feminine energies and being all right about that, but also it's talking about a partnership. We mentioned this earlier. It's talking about a partnership coming in, and there's got to be balance there. It's got to be there in equal measures. And it will be as soon as you take that element of fear out of your heart and just go with the flow and trust that everything is happening for the good, the greatest good. Also, with this being said, they're at a picnic setting outdoors there. So this is talking about you actually getting out and about a little bit more so than perhaps you have done in the past. Stop making excuses. Get yourself out there. There's also lots of butterflies on this artwork there as well. So that is indicating change, transformation, with your sensitivity, with you being more open to that, open to blessings, and observing them and noticing them when they're coming in as well. There's an arc of a rainbow over the top there. So to me, that indicates this is heaven sent. The connection, this relationship connection that the card speaks about is heaven sent, and that you are to let your guard down and don't resist these changes. And also it's referring to your chakra system, that everything's coming into alignment now, and you are to trust. Although it will feel a little bit intimidating when you move into this new vibration, because you'll be increasingly more sensitive. You'll recognize energies that are being said. You'll feel into connections and relationships, whether this is romantically or even a friend or a colleague relationship there. You'll feel the energy behind that connection rather than at face value with the words, with the exchange there. That's what I feel that represents. Also, there's a bandstand in the background. This is talking about music. Having music playing in the background will heighten your vibration and get you aligned in this new timeline that we're speaking of. It's going to help you to stay resonant with it and be present with this new vibration as you walk confidently, following the wisdom of your heart there as well. And also there's a tree in the background. That to me is talking about laying your foundations, being present, being grounded, and also branching out into new vistas of opportunity. So that's what I picked up for you for this week's energy forecast reading. Thank you for hearting, liking, commenting and sharing. If you've enjoyed what you've seen on here and you would like to help and support the work that I do, I have got a buy me a coffee link either above or below this video, which is a virtual tip jar. So all of your generous donations will be gratefully received and used in accordance with the spiritual work that I do to help people raise their vibration on their spiritual pathway. Also, if you would like to book with me any of my services for a reading or whatever, you can find a link in my bio, or you can go over to my website, www.glenboddicespiritualmedium.com. Find me on Facebook, Glenn Boddice Spiritual Medium. Join me every Monday at 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time with my radio show From Beyond with Glenn Boddice, talking about all things spiritual, paranormal and self-help. This is on www.pulsetalkradio.com. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Bye for now. Wow, it sounds like we're all set for a very interesting week ahead, doesn't it? It's interesting to hear that we're coming to an end of a cycle and moving into a new one. And for many of you listening may think, well, thank goodness for that. It's about time. I know I certainly have experienced a period of, I would say, stagnant energy over this last month of April, where I felt like I was treading water and doing some internal processing. So that would make sense now, hearing that forecast reading, why it is unfolding in this manner. So I hope that aligns with you and helps you through the course of this week. If you have any show suggestions, any stories of a paranormal, self-help or spiritual nature that you would like to share with the show, you can contact me at www.glenboddicespiritualmedium.com or email me at glenboddice@live.co.uk. And as ever, it would be fascinating to have that interaction with you. And if you're happy with me to read out some of your experiences on the show, I would be honored to do that for you on your behalf. So whatever it is you're doing this week, have a fantastic one. Take things steady and enjoy every present moment. Join me next Monday at 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time with this very show From Beyond with Glenn Boddice on www.pulsetalkradio.com. Bye for now, everybody. God bless.
Thank you for listening to From Beyond. For more information about what products and services Glenn provides, go to Glenn Boddice, spiritual medium